And we are live.
We're back again. We're still on the air.
That's right. We haven't been pulled off yet, so we're getting lucky here. It's week 3 weeks in a row. We've been here on Mondays at 3 p.m. Eastern time. We also do an AI show on Fridays at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And as I just mentioned, our show is about AI, everything AI. But on Monday's show, what we do is we do a longer version training, and then on Friday's show we do like AI news and other shorter tutorials and things like that on Friday. So at any point you got a question, make sure you drop them in the comments underneath these videos, either on Monday or Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, and we'll talk about them on Friday if we can.
Yeah, we should also talk about the Build a Business series that's going on this week inside the ClickFunnels group, which we are live in. And you will probably see us on there utilizing some AI tools. So that will be kind of separate. Maybe we'll go into a deep dive on Friday about them, but definitely don't miss that because AI is how we make everything look easier these days.
Well, yeah, it's part of our world. It's not going to go away. So I'm not saying you have to embrace it, but you certainly have to know how you can use it in order to make your business easier, in order to make things go faster. There's so many things we're doing now that even 6 months or a year ago we could not do, that are shortening up the amount of time it takes to get a product out, to get a sales page out, to put together a sales page or a sales video or anything. We are definitely compressing that time with AI. And if you compress time, you're going to hopefully increase, or decrease, I should say, the amount of time it takes for money to get into your pocket.
100%. I think like the people that are willing to utilize AI and learn about AI will be so far ahead. And I know like the things that we're working on, it would not be possible without AI.
Yeah, so this is now week 2 training. Now, last week we actually did some MidJourney training as well. It wasn't part of this program necessarily, but 2 weeks ago I did the introductory training on MidJourney. This here is week 2 we're going to do of MidJourney. And yes, what we're going to play now is a recorded video, because anyone who's ever worked in MidJourney or any other AI tool knows that if you want to shoot a 30-minute video, you're going to spend 2 hours doing it, because you got render times, you got errors, you got all kinds of problems. So didn't want to bore everyone with that. So we cut out the garbage. And this video is actually quite long today. It is 57 minutes long, but it's a very deep dive into the next part that you really need to understand and know about MidJourney. And then 2 weeks from now, we're going to be getting into using different references, image references, style references, character references, and stuff like that in MidJourney. And then next week, Madison is going to probably, what are you thinking on next week, Madison?
I think that we're going to deep dive into 11 Labs, which I think is the best text-to-speech generator. There is also now speech-to-speech generator, which is really cool. So problem with AI doesn't always say the word correctly. You can't always spell it phonetically, but now you can go speech-to-speech. And I have a really cool reference of like just how cool it really is. And yeah, we'll talk about that next week.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm ready. If you're ready, let's roll the week 2 training for MidJourney, and I will drop into the comments under this video here the link back to week 1 MidJourney training, in case you want to go back and check that intro video.
Sounds good. All right. We will see you guys on the end of the video.
And Havy, and welcome back to our MidJourney training. Last week's episode, we went through an introduction to MidJourney. We showed what you would use it for. We showed the basics of how to use it, how to get it set up, where to find some of the documentation on how to set it up. And so today, what I'm going to do is continue on from that training. When we see here, you're going to see on the screen right here, this is known as a grid or an image grid or something like that inside of MidJourney. And anytime you put in a prompt, it will always return you this grid of 4 images. So we went through a little bit high level stuff on there. We're going to go deeper into this today. And then next week, what we're going to do is we're going to get a lot more heavily into the parameters that you can use to start modifying things. And then in the later weeks beyond that, we're going to get into the prompting itself, the different words, and how certain words in the prompting will change the results of the image that you see. So the very first thing I want to do is I just want to click out of here, and we're going to go down to the bottom in our bar again down here, and we're going to put in /settings. And if you recall from last week, when we do this, we're going to pull up the settings for, and I got to hit the enter key twice, brings us back down to the bottom here. And these are very important things down in here. One thing we're going to see here is a current suffix right up here at the top. We'll talk about that in later episodes because that has a lot to do with setting up of parameters. It also has to do with some of these items in here as well. And then below that, we have our versions. And I didn't really talk about this, but we scroll all the way down to the version, MidJourney model version 1 way down here at the bottom. How long ago was that created? I don't know. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I have no idea. Model 2, 3, 4. Now, one thing here, as of December of last year, December of 2023, they went from version 5.2, which was actually really quite a good version, into MidJourney 6 Alpha. And Alpha, being that is like way before it should be out for production, really struggled quite a bit. And sometime in the last month or so, they clearly have the default now of just version 6 is what they're calling it, or should be really version 6 beta, because they apparently have never released anything to a regular production. Everything is still always in beta with them. And again, version 7, they're already well into production of that, and they're expecting it to come out sometime, who knows, as early as this summer, or summer 24 even. So by default, it will give you version 6, but of course we can come down here and change this to version 5.2 or something prior if you want. And in later episodes of this, I will show you where you can go in and see more examples of what the older versions would look like. But if you want really good high quality images, you're going to probably want to stick with 5.2 or with 6. Then we have a few other settings in here, and we have our stylize of medium, a low, medium, high, and very high. And then we have our high variation and our low variation. So I'm picking out these two here just to begin with. So let's just go high variation and low variation. Depending on which one of these you choose, when you click on up here where you have, so here we got our grid, and if you recall last time, this is 1, 2, 3, and 4, corresponding to 1, 2, 3, 4 across, for the U's, which is for upscale, and V, which is vary. So the ones here down on the bottom, these are for vary, and they're controlled by these two right here. So if we leave this in high variation mode and somebody clicks on V4, it will automatically vary it at the high variation mode. If we have this set to low variation mode, same thing. You click on V4 right here, it will change the image based upon the low variation mode, so it'll have the least amount of variations. So just be aware that that's what this is. The only thing this is toggled by this right here. So inside of here, if we were to open this up, and it would look like this one would up here, you also have very subtle and very strong up here. Well, that is the same thing. So if we have high variation mode, if we click on very strong, it will do high variation mode. If we click on very subtle, it will do the low variation mode. So the truth is, you don't even really need these V's down here at the bottom, and maybe they're doing it like this because they're intending on taking out the V's down here at some point in the future. I really don't know that for sure. But with all of these here, you can just come in and click the U for the upscale. It will open up all of this dialog down here at the bottom, and you can then vary it as you choose, not going off of these two variations down here anymore. And hopefully that wasn't too confusing. But also now, if we take this same prompt, so let me just take this prompt out of here, and we will just copy this, and we will put it down here in the bottom, and we will say imagine, and we will paste in that prompt. I just want to show you something that changes slightly in these boxes after we do this. Now, if we come down here and we click on U4, we're going to upscale this one right here. If we click on this, you should see that it has changed a little bit. And what we have now is upscale 2x and upscale 4x. Whereas if we go up to this one above here, where was it? Upscale subtle and upscale creative. That's only a minor difference, but I wanted to point you out that because depending on the model you're using, depending on the version you are using, it will be slightly different. So here is giving you a 4x upscale, which I think brought it to 4,000 pixels. I'm not positive on that. And this was like at 2,000 pixels, whereas this image right now would be like at 1,000 pixels. Think of it that way. Because when you click on the U right here, it does do an instant upscale for you, but not nearly at the level that these two upscales right here would do. But also in here, the very subtle and very strong stay the same. And as you saw, that has to do with this right here. So now let's just scroll back up a little bit. Now we have stylize. Now inside of MidJourney, you can do a stylize from 0 to 1,000. And we'll talk about that a lot more in the next episode where we go into parameters. But if we leave this here at stylize of medium, that will set it to the default of stylize of 100. Now, what does stylize mean? It basically says, okay, MidJourney, I'm going to give you some latitude on what you can do. So MidJourney's been trained on all of these models, all kinds of millions of images. And so it can get really crazy. We can do other things like chaos and weird and stuff like that. And again, we'll talk about that with the parameters. But with the stylize, it says, okay, we're going to give you out of 1,000, we're going to give you 100 leeway. So we're going to give you basically 10% of the leeway on you just going crazy and making this thing look like however you want. And so that's why it is set as a default, that it gives it a little bit of room, but it doesn't let it just go completely bonkers and just give you all kinds of wild images. It sticks more to the prompt that you put in. Now, for me personally, especially when I'm rolling my images the very first time, I like to have it in style of raw. And you're going to see here, this changed right up here at the top when I put it into raw mode. So right now it is in version 5.2 and it is also in raw mode. If I click on stylize low, it puts up here S50. Like I said, so we had stylize of 100 right here, which is the default. If we click these other buttons, it will actually change this now to 250, and very high is going to be at 750. So for me, probably want to leave it as stylize medium, and we want to do style raw. And then because we want the most flexibility possible as we are working with our prompts, we want to leave relax mode turned on all the time. Because what that will do then is when you come down and let's just say we're going to upscale 4x down here. So we'll click on this. Okay, well, that wasn't going to do it, so let's do very subtle. So it doesn't do it on the upscale. I was wrong about that. So very subtle, it opens up this dialog box. So here it says remix the prompt. And so we can come in here and we can make changes to the prompt we put in as we are varying the image. So not only will it do, in this case here we clicked on very subtle, it will do subtle changes, but it also can make any other additional changes that we want. So let's just say here we're going to say a blue 57 Chevy, and we will click on that and submit it. And now the images we get back should all be of a blue 57 Chevy, even though I guess that's what I had here in the first place was kind of a teal green color. And now this one here is not running for some reason. I accidentally clicked on it a minute ago, so let's just go over here and we're just going to say cancel job. But now if we look at it here, we now have a blue Chevy. And of course, if we were to go back in here again, let's just say very subtle, or we can just re-roll it here. Let's just re-roll this here. You're going to get the same effect, at least we should, and we will turn it into a red Chevy because we're not really varying it subtle, but we can do a very strong. strong. Let's do that. That will open up the box again right here. And let's just put in this time here an orange Chevy, just so that we can see the difference between the images. Because here, when we did the very subtle, you're going to see we still have a lot of the same things in the back. It changed a little bit of the text. Let's open this up here. So it changed the text on this sign here. It changed the text on here. And it's all in really bad text on here. And so we probably wouldn't want that, or we'd have to drop it into Photoshop to clean it up. And so now here I put in a red Chevy. In this case here, that one's not working, but the orange Chevy did. So what did I do in this case here? No, we did a remix subtle and a remix strong. So in the remix subtle, even though I put in red, it did not want to change it. So that's one of the things you got to be aware of, is you don't always get the results you want. So you have to either just re-roll it, come back up here again, click on the very subtle, change the color again, maybe change it to a different shade of red. Maybe we need to do candy apple red or something. And just be aware that sometimes you have to re-roll many, many times in order to get something to work. Down here at the bottom, it did a nice job of turning it all orange. Okay, so let's roll back up here to where we were before, where we were looking at our settings. So we talked about the raw mode, and I'll show you that a little bit more here in a minute, how we can turn that on if it does not come on automatically when we put in a prompt. We did our stylize. We said keep remix mode on. You're going to want to keep it on fast mode. You can put it on to relaxed mode if you want to wait a while for this to really kick in, but it could be a while. I saw some numbers the other day where if you put it into relaxed mode, especially if you run relaxed mode a lot, it can take a minute or 2 or 3 in order to render your image for you. But on the other hand, if you put it into turbo mode, it'll be back in like a second or 2, or I should say, it will start rendering your image in a second or 2, whereas if you have it in relaxed mode, it may not start rendering your image for a couple of minutes. But if you keep it into fast mode, most of the time, unless you're a really, really heavy user, you shouldn't have any problem with running out of your allotment every single month. So let's just come down here to the bottom, and let's just put in an imagine here, and we're just going to say just something simple here. We're just going to put in a dog, and we're going to go -- AR for aspect ratio of 2:1, and we're going to hit enter and see what we come up with. Now, like I said here, it's going to make it go very close to what I put in. So it's going to give us a picture of a dog and probably not much else. But if we were to do the same thing here, just to give you an idea, and like I said, we're going to go over this a lot more next week, we're going to say a dog -- stylize of 1,000, and then we'll just go -- AR 2:1 again. Oops, not 2:11, 2:1. We will do that. And now let's see what the difference is, because there should be a huge difference here. And I do see here we are already set here to be in version 5.2, because again, we changed this to 5.2 up here. So let's just change this back to the default of 6.0. And then we will come down to the bottom and we will be rolling all the rest of them in 6.0. So here we got our style raw. So it pretty much gave us a dog. Here's one in the water, one on the beach. But then we come over here and you just see all 4 of these dogs look like they've been out playing in the mud and the water, and especially this one down here. They've been out playing hard all day long and they need a serious bath. So that's the kind of difference you're going to see between style raw and some other styles. And like I said, you can do chaos and weird and a lot of other stuff on top of that to give you a much broader range of what you would normally see. Now, what I just ran down here is a new prompt here, a woman with red hair, aspect ratio 2:1, and style of raw. So let's blow this up. And what I want to show you here is, first off, if you put in a woman with red hair, they all think that they all have a lot of freckles, which, being half Irish, I can tell you they don't necessarily have that many freckles. But let's just take this gal over here, because she's a perfect example of what I want to show. So we're going to take here U1, and we are going to click on that, and I want to show you the difference between what's going to happen when we upscale it, subtle versus creative, and when we do the vary on subtle and strong. So let's first off do the two vary regions here. So we're going not the vary region to vary the image, and we're going to leave the images alone. We're not going to remix it at all, but as we already know, that's why we turn on remix mode, because you may want to make some changes in there. So we'll just wait for this to render now. So part of what I want to show you here is, so here is our original woman, red hair, lots of freckles, eyes closed. And one of the things with when you do the vary, whether it's subtle or strong, it will not necessarily retain your image. So if you like the look of this woman, but you don't exactly want her, you want somebody similar to her, essentially, then you click on, you want to click on your variation. And so down here, we have our vary of subtle. So let's take a look at this. So you can clearly see here, these are 4 different women, different shaped noses, different amount of freckles, etc. One has more of a cleft on her chin here. The hair's a little bit different on every one of them. Clearly 4 different people. That is just very on subtle. Then if we go very strong, then not only do we have 4 different women, even though these two are quite similar, we got 4 different women, but they've also moved their heads more. The hair is much more all over the place as well. So that's where these girls here, they're all pretty much, their heads are in the same position. Here, this head certainly has moved quite a bit to her right. So again, it doesn't necessarily respect the image you had when you do the vary. But now let's do the upscale. And one of the things with the upscale, whether it's subtle or creative, what it will do is it will respect your image, but it will up-res the image. And so we'll give that a second to render. Okay, so here is our image that we started with, and again, we are upscaling here. And so when we upscale, it should take the image as we had it, and it should increase the resolution on it, also clean up the image, etc. So here we have one image of this woman. Let's go back to the original and blow that up. So here she is, and we're going to see in the subtle, it's not going to look that much different. So let's come back down here. Let's look at the subtle. Pretty much the same image, probably, like I said, higher resolution. And here we have clearly a difference on the complexion. The freckles on here are definitely not nearly as pronounced as they were before. Let's go back to this one here. Looking at the eyebrows here, the eyebrow is pretty much straight, almost appears, let's say, to be combed down, whereas we come into this one here, and there's much more detail in her eyebrows here underneath. So depending on what you want, one or the other of these may work just fine. And then, of course, generally speaking, what everybody advises is you like upscale it like this, and then you bring it into another tool like Magnific, or Adobe's got a tool too. I forget what a couple names of them are, but then you can put it into these other tools and it will be able to up-res it even further so that you can then use it in a video or use it in a creative or anything else like that. Now we're going to take a look at what I think is actually the most fun in here, and that is using the Vary Region tool. It's also known as in painting. So I have a prompt here, and it says, a cinematic movie still, medium shot of a woman standing in a field of flowers at sunset. She is wearing a lavender-colored evening gown, aspect ratio 2:1. Now, I should have put in here style raw as well. So, in fact, let us do that. Let us put that in, because all we got to do is roll a new prompt, put that in, and we're going to say -- style raw, so it really follows the prompt that I gave it. So we'll see the difference here now between the two of them. And so here we have our two results. Let's open this up. Now, I said in here to give it a medium shot, and I found especially that in version 6, it's a lot harder to get the length of the shot. I really basically wanted her from the waist up. That's why I said a medium shot, and it's giving me a full body shot right here, whether we did it with style raw or without style raw. So what we want to do here is let's just re-roll both of these, and we're going to change it from a medium shot to a close-up shot and see if we can get an image that's going to work out a little bit better for us. So all we have to do is click on the re-roll button here, and we're going to come in here. We're going to say we want this to be a close-up shot, and we will click on submit, and we'll do the exact same thing down here. And so as you can see here, in 3 of these, it actually cut the top off of the woman. And then in this one down here, the same thing. Well, in 2 of them, it cut off her head and gave us a full body shot again. So that's not working either. So I'm going to re-roll it one more time, and I'm going to take out the close-up shot and just see what we get without any prompt in there. And we still have the same issue here, not that they cropped them off, but we got, again, a full-size bodied woman. In this case here, she has our back to us, and over here, pretty much the same. 3 of them have their back to us, 1 does not. And that's one of the issues I found with version 6, is it's really hard to get somebody to face the camera and also get the size of the person that you want. So again, I mean, this one is getting close to what I was looking for, but I definitely prefer she faces the camera. But when I put in the prompt for face the camera or something along those lines, again, it has really struggled with it in 6.0, whereas in 5.2, we could easily get the subject to face the camera. So in order to get a image that even is close to what I was looking for, I changed it from a cinematic movie still to a portrait photography. So let's open this one up. So this one here is going to work perfectly. We have a young girl right here. She's got kind of brownish colored long hair, and she is wearing a purple gown. So now I went through all that so that we could come to the point here where we're going to show how we can remix this image, or more accurately, vary the region. So what we're going to do to start off with is we're just going to come into the image. I clicked on upscale of 2. We're going to come into vary the region. And in here, we have a couple different tools. As I showed you the other day, we got a square tool, which I don't use very often, so we can take that out. But then we also have a lasso tool. And what I want to do is I want to start off with changing her dress. I decided I love this woman. Background is perfect. I decided I don't like that dress. So let's just do this. We're going to crop around here where her dress would be, and we're going to take out essentially her entire body, and we're going to change it. Now, we're going to leave it right now as lavender, but let's see what it gives us as far as different options as far as the dress that she is wearing. Now remember, because we clicked on upscale to start this process, it's not going to change anything else in the image other than what we're telling it to change. So now we got clearly 4 different dresses that we can choose from. Now let's just say, oh, that's great, but I want it to be a black dress instead. So when we did this here, we didn't change the prompt at all. Now what we can do is we can come in and we can say, okay, let's just take number 4 here. We're going to take number 4, and we're going to change this by varying the region, and we're going to change it to being a black dress. So again, we're going to grab the lasso tool here. We're going to cut off her body entirety, because they may want to put something over the shoulders or something like that too. So we're going to take out lavender, and we're going to put in a black dress. If I can spell black, there we go, black colored evening gown, and we will then re-roll this again and see what we come up with. And here is the result. So you see it completely got rid of the dress in total and gave us a completely new dress. It's not that it took the existing dress and just turned it black. Is there a way to do that? Yeah, I think it's called Photoshop. So I don't know of any way to do that in here because it pretty much destroys what you have cropped out in here and then gives you something brand new. So now let's click out of here, and let's just take the one where she got the little flowery dress on here because we hadn't seen flowers before. And so now I want to change it, and I go, you know something, this girl really needs a haircut and a dye job. So we're going to say she needs to have short hair, and let's make some pink to match the flowers on her dress. So now we're going to crop out her hair. Now I got to admit, I've never done it with a woman with really long hair like this before, so we'll see how well this works. So the one thing we want to do is we want to save her face. So we're going to come in here, and I'm going to start right up here at her hairline, and I'm going to crop really close to her hairline. And you're going to say, as I'm coming down here, oh, wait, we're going over her face. But you will see then as we come around, and we're trying to stay off of her body as much as possible. Now, right now, you think that I'm covering up her face, but now as we come around, and on this side, we want to go wide. So we're going to come way up here wide, and then all the way around. Like I said, this is totally experimental at this point. We're going to come up here, and now, again, we are going to hug her face because we want to keep the face in there the whole time. There we go. Now cross your fingers, and let's see what happens. Now, it definitely changed her hair, but I forgot to put into the prompt what we want to change her hair into. So you see here, she got a lot more curly hair, and here's maybe a little bit flatter here. Actually, seems to be a little bit shorter here. I think the other one was down to the shoulders. So you definitely see it understands that it wants us to change the hair. It just didn't have any direction on it. So let's go back to the vary the region, and it will have kept the cropping that we had in here. So a portrait of a woman with short, pink, spiky hair. I think that's how you spell it, spiky. If not, hopefully it'll understand what I mean. And we will click on go and see what we get. And you probably noticed as I was typing this in that I put in shirt instead of short. But it is definitely more of a pinkish hue. So let's start this all over again. We'll come back up here, vary the region again, and I will change the prompt to short, pink, let me say spiked this time instead of spiky, because I don't think it knew that as a word. And we will click there. So it's really smart. It can usually figure out what you mean, but when you put in words that are two totally different meanings, shirt and short are two totally different meanings. If you most of the words, if you misspell them, it will figure out what you mean. But in this case here, you're starting to see the rendering coming in. We're definitely seeing some pink in there, but we're not getting short or spiked hair. Now, would it help if I put in some other characters in here? Let's just click on this and see what we got. Well, here's definitely shorter, but it didn't get it off from behind here. It's kind of more of a mullet look, I guess, she's got going on there. And maybe it's because I need to take out a bigger area down here because this is definitely shorter. In many cases here, it's definitely shorter. But this is one of those things. You just have to keep iterating and iterating and iterating if you like the image that you currently have. So let's just do this. Let's just take out more of the hair down here. And you see by doing this, we're just adding to the area that we are cropping out. So then over here, it wasn't taking this off very good. So let's just add a little bit more there. I honestly don't know what else I can do. Maybe come down into here, take a little bit more out there. And we'll re-roll this one more time because I don't want to bore you to death too much, because that's what you have to do, is you have to just keep fine-tuning and working with these images if you have something that you think is close. If you don't, then you got all kinds of options here. You got your re-roll button, you got these vary buttons, you also have these vary buttons right here. So if you get something close and you just say, in this case here, I love this image, we're going to vary this one subtle, and we'll just submit it, and then we're going to vary it strong as well. And hopefully it'll come up and give me the remix mode, and there we go. So we're just going to say we really like that picture a lot, but give me a couple more variations on it. And so now here we are done. Oh, there you go. We're getting closer. I don't know if I would call that spiked. I was kind of going more for a mohawk, but I guess maybe if I was smart, I would have put in the word mohawk to begin with, and now I just have to do it, and I know you guys can't wait to see me do this, so let's just put in mohawk. Let me see. Short pink mohawk for hair. Let's just put it that way. M-A-M-A. I'm guessing that's how you spell mohawk. Used to know a guy who had a big one, but I've never had one myself. My hair is way too curly for it. So here we go. We did this here, a variation of subtle. So, all right, so kind of the same girl. The faces are a little bit different. I mean, they could pass for sisters for sure. And now we got upscale, are very strong. So we got, not only do we have people who look more different, even though these two are very, very similar, we also have their bodies slightly different. This girl's turned sideways. This girl's a little bit more towards the camera. So again, the very strong will give you a stronger variation. And we did not get our mohawk. Who knows? Maybe the programmers don't know what the heck a mohawk is. Now we'll do one last thing here just because it's kind of fun, and sometimes it works, sometimes it does not. So let's just keep one of these images down here. Let's just go with number 1. So we're going to say upscale of 1, and we're going to vary the region. And now what we're going to do is we're going to try to insert another objects into here. Now, if we were using an image prompt along with it or something, this would probably be easier. But we're just going to say up here in this corner, let's just take out a big chunk of this corner right up here where the sun is. And we're going to say up here, an alien spaceship. Okay, so let me see here. We're going to go comma with an alien spaceship landing in the background. This can be really hit or miss. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Most of the times you don't get great results. I have a feeling as they keep moving along here, you'll get better results. I know in Photoshop you can do infilling like this, but again, I never really got much for great results in Photoshop on this either. So this is what we get. It's kind of cartoonish looking spaceship in the background, but she's apparently she's getting photobombed by the aliens as she's out here in the field on her photo shoot with her spiky pink hair. So, like I said, Remix is a lot of fun. You can spend a lot of time in here messing around with images, but it also teaches you really how the software works. So don't be afraid to jump in here and just play, because you can't break anything. You can't mess anything up. Again, if you render a bunch of images and for some reason you don't want them around anymore, you just come over here, shift, and click on the garbage can, and the image goes away. Okay, so next we're going to take a look at the pan function. And what I did is I started up here with some images of Marilyn Monroe. I said Marilyn Monroe, : 5. That means give Marilyn Monroe the strength of 5. And then we also have an S-ref in here, a style reference as well, and a style weight of 10. So the weight of the style is twice as much as the weight of the term Marilyn Monroe. And we will talk more about that in later stuff, especially when we get even past the parameters and we get into the stylizing of the images. So what I did here is I had these here and I said, well, give me a version of number 3. So here's number 3, and I said, give me a couple versions of that. It would have worked equally as well with this image here. In fact, I think that one looks more like Marilyn Monroe than this girl does here. So let's do that. And so the result for that was this right here. We had 4 different images here, all looking kind of like Marilyn. I chose this one here, number 2, right there, because what I wanted to do was to pan it out and see what the else was included in this image is kind of the way I look at it. It's like, okay, here is this woman. What else is there in this image? And so we come here, we click on U2. So we're going to upscale 2. And then down here, what's really nice with MidJourney is it shows you what you had clicked on. So I said, first off, let's pan upward. And so what I want to do is see, okay, what's her hair look like? So we pan upwards, and we get these 4 images right here. And you can see right there, the hair is kind of standing up all over. But I figured number 2 here was best. So I upscale number 2, and then I say, okay, well, what's to her right? So we click on that one, we pan to the right, we get our 4 choices here. And again, we can see we chose number 3 right there. And then we clicked on pan down. Well, apparently I also did some upscaling and some subtle, but either way I used pan down to get me the next group of images that I wanted. And then I did an upscale of number 2, which is this one right here. And okay, so that was the upscaled subtle and whatever else. So here we got let me see, what was the last one I did? I did a pan down. Where was it? Pan down right there. So we come down here. That gives us this image right here. And I wanted to keep building this out. So we go, okay, what's even further to the right-hand side? We get our choices here. I picked number 2 again. And here we got this couch filled in behind her. Well, okay, now what's to her left? And we go and we upscale those. Number 2 again. And we scale again to the left. Upscale number 4. And I think this is the final image I came up with. So we started off with essentially her face and a little bit of her hair, and we ended up with this image here just by panning and saying, okay, what else can we put into this image? And the nice thing is you get 4 choices. And of course, if we came in here and we said, okay, well, here are our 4 choices. We didn't like any of those. We just come back up here again. We would click on the pan button one more time. You don't want to re-roll it here at this point, I don't think. We're going to go click on the pan button, and then we will be able to get, again, this left-hand side rebuilt again to see what that may look like. Do the exact same thing here. Grab the hold of this image, pan to the right, started building it out, and you can see as we scroll along here, now I pan down. Now we're going to pan to the right again, and we're just going to keep building out the image of this gal sitting out in this field. And I think, yeah, right here is the final image that we end up with. So it's a pretty cool image. She's in focus. The rest of it has depth of field and is blurred out behind her. Here's one final example for you, a large Viking and troll walking through the gates of a fantasy town. So here we had the image, and then we're going to say we want to pan to the right, and that would give us not that image there, not that image there. Where do we go to here? I'd be right in here is where we pan to the right. We grabbed a hold of number 4. We then panned to the left. And we're going to keep going along here until we find the final image, going basically left and right until we finally come up with an image. Where is the final? We're getting close to it here. And here, I do believe, is the final image after we painted out the rest of the picture in here. And then I did some upscaling and a few other things to see what other kind of effects and details I could get to pull into the image. And now going back a little bit to where we were doing the very region before, and I was changing the girl's hair and her dress and everything else. This was the very first one I ever did. And you can see here it starts with a blonde woman with kind of short, straight hair. She's got a sweater on and a white shirt underneath. And what we're going to do is as you go through here, and you're going to see a whole bunch of different variations here. I got her hair a little bit darker, and I was just experimenting and trying things. Well, here what I did is I completely swapped out her face, and you're going to see this result right here is kind of one of those funky things that MidJourney will just stick in here on occasion because it was picking up the images of the flowers for some reason. And then here again, so that's not the same image. That's definitely not the same image. So I was doing something else there. And so we'll just keep going along because I will show you what the final result was. So here we see these women here. Clearly, I cropped out the head, the hair, the face, everything, and completely changed that up. And if we keep scrolling down, that's the exact same thing here. We had the same thing. In fact, it even put a guy in there. Sometimes I can't tell the difference. And so here's one that I up-resed at one point. And so we'll just keep going down. This is not the final face that I put on her, I don't believe. So we have this girl here, and then again here. Is this the same image background even? Yeah, this is. So right here, we completely swapped out the woman, but kept the background in there. Same thing there. Here we got blonde hair on her. And again, this was a complete swap out of the woman. But I have one in here where all I did is I swapped out the face and the hair, and I'm not going to be able to find it. But you can see here, you can come in and you can change this. So you like the background image, but you say, okay, we're going to do everything we can to change what is in the foreground if you want. And of course, anything in here, if you want to get rid of some flowers or whatever, you just mask them out. You don't really give it a prompt of what to replace it with. And a lot of times it will just take it right out of the image. So now the next thing we're going to talk about is zooming. And what I was trying to do in here was to start in on a close-up image of like a woman's eye. I'm thinking like in terms of an intro to a movie, especially a horror movie or something like that, where you would start out wide and you would just like come in and like just go focus in, boom, right on the woman's eye, and would go to black, and then, you know, it'd be the beginning of like a horror movie or something like that. So I was running two different tests simultaneously here. So I'll show you what I did. So eventually I ended up on taking this person's eye right here. And again, it's probably from one of these right here. I would guess, yeah, the top left one, I guess says U1 right there. And then we have this girl's eye, which came from right here, U2, right up there. So all I say in either of these here is we say zoom out 1x, same thing here. And apparently I tested a custom zoom as well. And so then we get a little bit more of both of their faces right there. And so then we do the same thing again. We pick out which one did we like the best. And then we're going to say zoom out 1.5 again. And we get a little bit more of the face, and we pick the version we like. We roll out some more, pick the one we like. We keep going out, and you'll see here as we go along, it is now slowly painting in the image. And again, you don't want to use pan on this, and you don't want to be putting in necessarily a custom size unless every time you wanted to stop and do a custom size on it, you could. But here's just 1.5, 1.5, and then as you take these images and you put them into your video creation software, you use what is known as interpolation. And so you're seeing here, we're getting way far out from this girl, and although we started as nothing but an eye, we got a complete body. She's sitting in front of a window. And again, as you go through, you pick out which one you like the best, or you can re-roll it or do whatever you want. And so now again here, I'm just working on this gal now. And so you got the choices of what I want the background to start looking like, and we just keep rolling out. Now here's the funny thing, when I was doing this, I got to probably about this point here, and I would hit to zoom out, and it would give me an error. It would say, yeah, the bot is trying to create something that it shouldn't be creating, and so we stopped it. You're not going to get in trouble for this. Well, that happened 3 or 4 or 5 times. Well, I finally realized, but I guess when we got to about this point right here, maybe here, and I think it was about right here, is that what it was trying to do was paint her as being totally naked. And it did roll at least one of them for me where she was, she clearly was bare-breasted in the video, in the picture. And so you have to know there are safeguards on this software. Not only can you not prompt for nudity or violence or anything like that, most likely, but although there are safeguards there, if you see that warning message, you know it was probably trying to put somebody naked in the picture or something. But it does have safeguards, but occasionally you'll accidentally get a picture. So just be aware of that. My understanding is if you use something like a Comfy UI, which I think both of these, I do believe, Comfy UI and MidJourney are both built on the Stable Diffusion platform. Same thing with Leonardo, that if you use a Comfy UI version, it was trained a lot on naked models. And so don't be surprised if you, especially using Comfy UI, if you don't get a lot of nudity in your images. So again, here we just keep zooming out, and I guess at this point here, I'm pretty much done. So again, think of it here. You're starting basically in this point right here. You're starting at black, and then you just come in and you zoom right in onto the woman's eye, and then you go to black again. And that was the kind of the effect I was trying to make here. And here, I'll show you this example real quick here. I use 2 different emojis for this, and then I put in style raw. Believe it or not, you can use emojis. If I remember, I'll make sure I do a little bit of training on that because it basically gave me this British girl who was supposed to have a frowning face. She doesn't look that unhappy. But then I said, okay, well, let's just mess around with this. Let's do some varying of the region and see what we can do with her hair. And so I picked out this one here. We varied the region, and let's just click on this. It should still show us in here where I varied that region. Nope, it did not in there. But either way, the result came out as you can see it right here. So it took this girl with her hair, same girl, and made her hair now much straighter and brunette. So we were able to change that. Actually, now that I look at this here, I did not change it. This is tossed hair, very messy tossed hair, style raw. I guess I just changed the prompt. Very messy tossed brunette hair, style raw. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, how did I do this without using the vary the region? Let me just see if I did it in here, because it should keep what I varied. But I'm guessing in this case here, it just lost that for some reason because we went from this image to this image. And so I must have had to vary the region in here, crop her hair, and then change the prompt to the tossed brunette hair, because otherwise there's no way I could have gotten this image, because had I changed the prompt completely, it would have also changed every other aspect of the image as well. Let me just show you one last thing you can do with the custom zoom, because again, you can do zoom out 2x, you can do zoom out 1x, and we can do a custom zoom in here. And what we can say here is let's change the aspect ratio to 2:1. That's probably a little bit too much. So, but well, let's do it anyway. Let's do 2:1. And now in this case here, we want to change the zoom to 1. We don't want the zoom to change. We just want the aspect ratio to change. And again, if you don't have the remix mode turned on, you have to make sure you have the remix mode turned on so you can see these boxes in the first place. And now we're going to submit this and we're going to see what we come up with, because it should give us the same dog in a much wider format, and the dog should probably be centered in the middle, but we'll see where he ends up. So that worked out great. We had this tiny image of the dog because I forgot to put it into an aspect ratio of 2:1. And now we have this lovely dog here. Again, we have a nice blurred out background as if it was taken with depth of field. And so again, another very nice image. Okay, so now for the last thing in this video, I want to go back into our settings. And what you're going to see above with the dog image here, I have these under style raw. And I want to show you what the difference is between style raw and not having it turned on at all, because style raw is actually a different model or algorithm or version, however you want to look at that. And it makes a lot of different changes here. So actually I see here, I must have typed in style raw because I do not have it turned on and I do not have it set on the suffix. So let's just click here and reset our settings. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to come back in here and I'm going to just do a dog again. Let's put in our imagine first, because I wish I had $1 for every time I forgot to type in the word imagine, which is why the alpha version of the site is going to be better, because you don't have to type that in. But part of the reason why we're not showing how to do this in alpha is because a lot of people don't have access to it yet, but also all the functionality of what you can do in Discord is not necessarily in there either. So let's just let this render for a second. And if we look at this here now, we'll click on it. And here is what I would call something that's photorealistic, where all these other three over here are clearly paintings of a dog. So now let's come back in here and we're going to do the exact same thing almost. We're going to do imagine. We're going to say a dog, and then we're going to go dash dash style raw and turn on the other model and see what we come up with, because my experience has been, and what I've heard others say, is that the default for style raw is really more of a realistic photo, cinematic photo, portrait photo kind of an image, whereas the standard model is more of, as you saw here, we had 3 out of the 4 were essentially paintings. So let's just see on this simple test if that's what we come up with. But definitely with style raw, it will reflect what your prompt is. So you probably want to have more longer, more realistic, more very well thought out prompts. Now we got 4 images here that are essentially photographs of dogs. Now you can say it's not quite photorealistic yet, but we're getting very, very close, and we're certainly much closer than the paintings that we had in the other images. So for me, I have certain parameters that I like to use all the time, and I know we haven't really gotten into parameters yet, but I'll show you what I normally do here. So we can put in our slash image again, and let's just do another picture of a dog, and then I'm going to paste in some parameters that I copied. So I like to do aspect ratio of 2:1. In this case here, I had version 5.2 in here. We can make this 6.0 if we want, but let's say we normally are running on 6.0, and so we're going to do a whole bunch of images at 5.2, so we can do that. We can do style raw and stylize of 0. So let us hit the enter key there. And while we are doing that, I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to say slash prefer, and you see up here you got slash prefer suffix. So we come down here, we can click now on new value, and I'm going to paste in exactly what I had right there, and I'm going to hit enter. And then here, once these images are done rendering, I guess it's already done, I will show you where that makes a change. So we'll take a look at this here. Again, pretty decent looking images. We can work on them, but remember, I have a prompt of 2 words. I don't say anything else about how we want this to look, what we want it to look like, but clearly, again, it gives you an idea of what the default algorithm is thinking. Because you say the word dog, and we got clearly 3 of them here are clearly on a beach. This could be sand underneath this dog with water in the background as well. Hard to tell. So apparently, MidJourney bot associates dogs with water. Even little poodle looking things down here. So let's go in here. Let's take a look at one more thing. So we said suffix now is that. And so now we're going to go back into our settings, and we're going to hit enter, and we're going to see what that did. We have to hit enter twice always. I forget that. So we see here now we got AR21 version 5.2. So I put what I put in here as my suffix, and then what it also does is it changes these down here based upon how I changed that suffix. And you saw this earlier. As I changed these buttons, then it changed my suffix. So now if we want to change this to version 6, what it did is it basically killed a bunch of the stuff and changed it to version 6, including having taken out the raw mode. So now if I want raw mode back on, I had to click on raw mode back there, and then it put it back up there at the top. Now, I think if you have not already previously set the prefer suffix, it won't necessarily print it here into this line. But if you have set it, then it will print it here into this line. The other thing is if you click on any one of these styles, there's no way, besides going into prefer suffix, there's no way to turn the setting for the stylize back to 0. So just keep that in mind if you start clicking around in here, and if you change high or low variation, it does not change anything in the suffix either. So that is it for this episode here. I wanted to go much deeper dive on everything that you could find inside of the grid here, inside of the upscale and the variations. And so in the next video next week, we are going to go deep diving into our parameters, and then like I said, after that we're going to go into style and character references and things like that, and that's where we really start getting crazy, when we start taking external images, external color palettes, and putting them together into creating our images. So if you got any questions, just let us know.
Mic is muted, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that. You learned a few things from Dan. Definitely continue to go and post your photos, post the stuff that you're learning underneath these videos. Tag Dan and I in it, and Dan is back.
Yeah, I was here. I messed up my camera. We're both having technical difficulties.
Yes. So that's pretty much it for today's show. We're going to be back on Friday for our AI news of the week. And then we're also going to be live probably most of the week with the other ambassadors for the Build a Business. where, of course, we're going to bring AI. So if you're nerding out about AI, then join us for the rest of the week. I think tomorrow it is at noon Pacific, and then Wednesday's 9 Pacific, Thursday is 10 Pacific, and then Friday is 9 Pacific again.
Okay.
Or
I'll
just turn
believe
your
you.
notifications on.
Because I'm not quite sure what time it is on Tuesday and Thursday, but it's not the same as Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I know that
Correct.
for sure.
It's going to be 3 Eastern.
Okay.
3 Eastern on Tuesday, 1 Eastern on Thursday. But yeah. Alrighty.
Okay.
We will see everybody later on in the week.